Welcome to the Hublife podcast. We are so glad that you have joined us today. As you know, we like to have conversations here, all centred around ending the needs for Foodbank. And today we are very excited to have with us Gavin.
Thank you.
So Gavin is going to share his story. He's been a client at the Foodbank, and so we're excited to hear your story today, Gavin.
Yeah, and it's important, we think, to hear experiences of people who've used the Foodbank. You know, we've been running a Foodbank for 12 and a half years, something like that.
I can't do the maths.
But even us, you know, having been in it so long, we don't know what it's like to be a Foodbank client because we've never been one. We've run a Foodbank, and so like we think we need to, you know, we're chatting about ending the need for Foodbanks. We need to get people's experiences from the other side as well. So we think it's really important to be part of the conversation, especially as we plan forward in what we're going to do in the next few years, because we've got a lot planned. Maybe we'll get onto that today. Yeah. But I want to make it clear, I've not heard Gavin's story at all. Steph's told me like 2 or 3 little nuggets of tiny bits. And so like I'll be hearing it for the first time along with you guys at home. So Gavin.
Yes.
Do a background and your experience. Do a long run up for us about, you know, your past, where you've been.
A long run up, condensed, because I've done quite a few things. I was raised in Thetford. Thetford used to be the capital of East Anglia.
Yeah, not when you were young, though.
not when I was young, but we're going a bit further back. Yeah. But I've always been proud to be from Thetford. I mean, it comes with its own taglines and stuff. Kind of just muddled my way through life, never really settling in a job. I've only just recently found out what's probably going on with me mentally, to be able to understand why I've never settled in a job, or I've always moved around a lot. I'd already been backpacking in Thailand, so I moved to Thailand and became a diving instructor. I ended up becoming a IDC staff instructor. So yeah, I lived in Thailand for 10 years, working as a scuba diving instructor. When I come back to the country, my driving licence wasn't valid. I didn't have a bank account anymore, all of these things. And my sister took me in. I was deported from Thailand for not having a visa for 5.5 years. So I was jailed first and then deported. And I come home.
What's jail like in Thailand then?
Jail. As hard as they say it is. Yeah, as hard as they say it is. The first jail I was in, it was quite cushy. We used to like have vodka parties in the evening because there was booze being smuggled in, and you know, we'd maybe have some good food, like get McDonald's in there and this kind of thing. So
they have McDonald's in Thailand with Thai food.
Not with Thai food. But you have Thai McDonald's.
Wow.
That used to be a special treat, that did, because it was on the other island from me. So I would always go to McDonald's when I was on Koh Samui, but living on Koh Phangan, I did break the rules. I accept the punishment, but it was time for me to come home. My mum had been diagnosed with dementia not long after I left for Thailand. And I needed to come home. It was getting worse and everything else. And I didn't know how I was going to do it because I was an illegal immigrant in another country. Got caught, got deported. Got jailed, got deported. Come back here with £70. My sister sent a taxi down to pick me up from Heathrow, and boy, was I just shocked.
So how long ago would that have been then?
This is 5.5 years ago.
Right.
So my sister put me up. I was kind of shell-shocked. The whole of the jail thing was hard, but I kind of dealt with it by being kind to the people that I was meeting, which I seem to do this. I deflect from my own personal problems by taking on other people's problems. So I've got to worry about their problems, not my problems. My problems, I'm more worried about. You know, my sister helped me out. My brother-in-law helped me out massively. Got me a job in construction with one of his friends. So I got my head down, started working, and then I started to follow an old path, which was with the drugs and with the alcohol, and got myself in a bit of bother. Got arrested by the police. My sister's house got searched and this kind of thing, which I was more embarrassed about than my sister was. My brother-in-law was very good, but they also were, obviously upset. But at that point, it was time for me to leave because I couldn't bring that around. Ended up with community service, a fine, and I wasn't really a nice person. So I was still working and everything, although I changed my jobs. I was self-employed. So I moved out. I rented a little apartment, or is an annex, from this old lady in Walshamley Willows. And she was just absolutely bonkers. She gave me no privacy at all. And you're like in a little village and you just can't run away from people. and she just gave me no privacy.
Coming in when you're in the bath.
Well, no, she'd be knocking on the door and everything. That didn't last long, which then I decided I was going to go and live in my van. Yeah, the van thing's always been an option for me. I've lived in cars before and stuff like that in life. And it starts off as deluxe camping. Only trouble is my van's pretty small, so you can only get in the fetal position in the back. There's none of this stretching out or anything. There's no toilets, there's no cooking facilities, so that slowly came in time.
That was for nearly 3 years then, was it? Solid
no.
or on and off? Or?
So that was on and off. And deluxe camp for a year and a half. Between
a year and a half solid in your van, pretty much.
Within my van, or I used to sleep on a garage floor, where I stored my stuff that I had from the house and everything else. So yeah, either deluxe camping or being on a garage floor. Both of them started off as being really great things, but I stopped working. I was starting to lose my mental health. My mum's condition had deteriorated so much, but also her husband had a second stroke and he had no plans in place to look after my mum. At the time of me being homeless and starting my deluxe camping, my mum was then taken into a home. And I could get to see her. This was the first time I got to see my mum really in 2.5, maybe 3 years.
Did you say that was during COVID? She went
during
into
COVID. This all happened with mum, and then me and my sister would go and visit my mum. One of the last private conversations I had with my mum was, "Oh, look at that tree. I reckon that's older than both of you and me put together." And she'd say yes, and we'd go on a little bit, and then she'd go, "The tree, do you reckon it's older than both?" And we'd done that for nearly an hour visit. My sister couldn't visit. She'd been in hospital, was recovering from an operation, so I went on my own. And that was really special. I mean, my mum and my dad, they gave up their lives to adopt me and my sister and give us a life. And back in the 60s when we were adopted, you went through hell.
I bet.
You went through hell. When I first come back from Thailand, she could remember who I was, but she couldn't remember my name or anything at the end of it. Both me and my sister went to visit her. On what was the last day of her life, we got to see her. No one else in the family got to see her. And that's when it really went bad for me.
So that was a pivotal point. But you said leading up to that you were already not doing very well.
Yeah.
With your mental health. Do you think was the housing side of it a contributor to that?
Absolutely.
And the relational side of not being able to see mum. Like initially, you said you weren't able to see her for a long time. For me, like relationships are the most important thing for
family.
For everything.
Family is everything. Okay. I started to think, well, why am I really here now? I'm not working. I'm an emotional wreck. I'm doing this deluxe camping thing, which everyone says this thing about van life, and it's really, really cool. And I'm sure with your deluxe American style ones where the sides come out and you've got big TV and all of that, fabulous.
Yeah, and with people as well.
Yeah.
A handful of people.
Just in a van with no bed, just different layers of blankets or duvets to sleep on top of, and a sleeping bag. Thank you, Steph. Was home. I started cutting myself off from the community. My mental health was, I was bunking into the sports centre to have a shower until I was caught bunking into the sports centre. Yeah. And that was my lowest point, was when I'd lost even my bathing. Just being, there's only so much you can do with wet wipes. They work.
Yeah.
They're not really good for the environment, and I'm a little bit like, having lived and worked underneath in the sea, it's really important we look after the environment, but needs must and stuff. But yeah, not being able to wash or anything else. I got suicidal, and I made an attempt on my life. The second time, I picked the phone up and spoke to Samaritans. The Samaritans were great for 3 hours. I chewed their ears off and everything, and took on board what they were saying. And, they're kind of very gently saying, well, you've got to change how you're living. Why don't you go to shelter? Why don't you contact a professional organisation to help you? I was like, yeah, but, I got kicked out of this room, and, I haven't been back in the country that long, really, and everything else. And they were like, well, just speak to someone. If you go and speak to someone, maybe you can get some help with housing. And then they also put me on to Norfolk and Waveney Wellbeing Service. So I've been doing rounds of counselling online, but it seems to work for me. I quite like how you set the environment yourself, so you're in your safe space to have a chat about your problems and everything else.
I'd definitely prefer that if I was opening up about stuff, doing it online where it's not a real person. Other people would be the other way, wouldn't they? They'd want someone in the flesh.
It's one of those things I've always wanted to skip away from, I've never wanted to lay on the sofa. And that's how you imagine it.
Yeah.
That's, and that's why you don't go and ask for help, is because you think, you're going to lay on a sofa. They're going to be making notes. They're going to be judging you and all of this stuff. And after the Samaritans call, I contacted my doctor. I went into my doctor's. My doctor's in Feltwell. Fabulous. All of the nurses there, brilliant. The mental health team really got on me. They started to get me in contact with shelter. I'd already contacted Norfolk Wellbeing, and I was starting to be heard. But I didn't really want to shout because I was quite embarrassed and I felt empty. I felt, I have done a lot of stuff in life. I've done some really cool stuff. Jumped out of aeroplanes, scuba dive with sharks.
So it's not like you're not an accomplished human being with lots of feathers to your bow, but at that point in your life, just feeling dejected and...
Yeah, it was really, really hard. I was struggling with my mum because I hadn't seen my mum for so long. I saw her when I first got back and then didn't see her through the whole of the COVID period. But I was struggling with all of this. And then when my mum passed, which was May last year, on my dad's birthday, strangely enough. But yeah, that was the point where I was done. I'd lost my mum. My sister was obviously upset. We've been battling with my mum's husband for years. And I was done.
You sought help and other people had started helping you and stuff. So then how did it come about that you then accessed the Foodbank? What was that journey like?
Okay, so I'd reached out and I was, I'd taken a load of tablets and drunk a load of alcohol. I don't know how many you need to take. I thought I'd taken enough that I would just drift off, alcoholic-induced coma and, bye-bye world. But the team got me through. So my route to the hub and the Foodbank, which changed everything, was through the community nurse getting me in touch with shelter and a lady called Tanya Mills at King's Lynn Shelter. Bright, bubbly, totally what you didn't what I didn't think I'd expect to meet from shelter. She was just down to earth, took me for a coffee. We met in Mumford Cafe, and we sat down, and she took all of my details, where I'd been living and everything else. And she's like, right then, well, I'll fill the forms in for you. I'm like, cool. She goes, you keep on with the counselling and we'll keep in touch. And she started contacting Kings Lynn Council to make my homeless application with Kings Lynn Council, done all of the paperwork for that there. And we had a chatty relationship. Each week we'd talk. And she issued me my first Foodbank voucher.
When would that have been then? Because obviously I'm not on sessions anymore. Steph runs them all.
October last year, I think. Right. Yeah, about 6 months, 7 months now. I turned up here with my Foodbank voucher, probably at the lowest point in my life, really. I felt I was maybe just a peg away from begging. Yeah. I mean, I'd been robbing allotments. I'd been doing all of that beforehand. Because man's got to eat. And, I'm very sorry for those that lost a cabbage or some carrots and stuff, but, needs must. I can only be sorry about that to any of you that are looking in now, but thank you as well. It kept me going. But once I found a food bank, I come in here, I met Steph. Who's the guy who does the door here? The coach
Andy.
driver. Okay, so Andy's fabulous.
We love Andy.
He introduces himself, tells you about how the centre runs, tells you what's available for you, points you in the direction of the coffee, gives you a magic number, and then you sit down with Steph and Dave. Who are great. I mean, I turned up here and Steph asked me, I don't know whether they're standard questions, but it was like first time to introduce myself and how have I ended up here. Really in a unjudgmental manner. It was just genuinely, how can we help you? And I was fighting the tears back, telling her where I was living.
Yeah, you weren't in a good way, Gavin, were you? I think, to be fair.
No, I wasn't. My happy pills are still not really. They hadn't got the right selection for me to lift me, and it is an emotional time. And walking into the food bank for the first time, it's quite daunting.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a massive step. For your pride, for it's a low. It's like, I've put stuff in the food bank box. And now I'm coming to take stuff out of the food bank box. How things change. Yeah. How things change in life. And I've seen a couple of people that I went to school with here, who always put their head down and they're like a little bit ashamed that they're having, but you shouldn't be. If you're broke, this place changed me. I came here, I had nothing. And Steph issued me with me magic little card with one wrote on it, and allow him to look through it because he hasn't got a can opener and stuff like that, which was, really nice that he done that, because I ended up with a load of food that I couldn't eat. You're not allowed to carry big knives, are you?
Yeah, it's frowned upon.
I found my Scout's knife when I was unpacking all of my stuff. But yeah, so Steph listens to, and what Steph done with the knowledge that she's got locally of the local services, pointed me in the direction of a charity called Chapter 15, run by Nadine.
Yeah,
showering facilities and clothes washing facilities. So now I could be clean and I could present myself. And a cheese toasty or a bacon roll, if it's a Saturday, that goes down really, really well. But the hot shower just was a game changer. Yeah, it gave me my humanity back. And if it just raised you a little bit. You also recommended other things like Pine Close Sharon's, Meet and Eat, another great service in Thetford. We can go and get a hot meal on a Monday through to Thursday up until 6 o'clock in the evening at Pine Close. a hot meal cooked for you.
I want to just interject there. I think when I first met Gavin, because obviously you don't know our situation, our story, but our story, check us out. But for me, when Gavin walked in, like he said, his head was down and he was, like I said, a little bit emotional and embarrassed and stuff. And I do just remember just giving him this information. But that following week that he came back, you were a different man. And I don't know if you remember that, but like he literally like come in, running in and was like, I've had a shower. And he was like, I feel like a completely new person. And so, you know, like he's just said, having that, being able to do that and the difference that made in him was amazing to see.
It totally changed things for me. It really did. I was able to be clean. So if I can be clean, I can then, I'm not a hugely social person, but I can be social. You know, you're not smelling, you're not dirty, you're not grubby, you're not conscious about that. And I can get my clothes cleaned. You know, it's kind of knocked out a knock-on effect because now I help out with Nadine at Chapter 15.
Yeah, Steph, that's one thing she did tell me. Yeah, you told me today, I think. Yeah. That you now do that. I think it's brilliant.
For me, when I first turned up there, it was quite overwhelming, and it just another welcoming smile like you give, Steph, and it just felt like home. And like after I finished my coffee and had my sandwich, I went up and I just washed up my cup and my plate because my mum brought me up properly.
Yeah, as you should.
As you should. Right. Well, no, you know, it's not a big deal. But then it was like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You're a guest here, and it's like, yeah, but it's just my way of putting it back. And I sort of progressed from doing the washing up to making coffees to I've now done a food hygiene program, or course, so I can now cook the food as well. And it's exciting. It's exciting. It's like I'm able to give back to people, but I've had a real struggle. I had a real fight with the councils, which took its toll on me. But being able to shower, being clean, I can go into the council offices and just represent myself.
You didn't feel like you could do that before?
No, I didn't. I felt dirty. I think it'd been 5 or 6 weeks since I showered last.
You had all this, like, different helps and supports from lots of different agencies or people or groups or charity groups, but resistance from the council, where, you know, many people would think they would be the first port of call for people to get help, but you found that perhaps the opposite then, that it was...
I'm not really sure how I should talk openly about it, shouldn't I? The councils are not always truthful about what you do and what you don't have to do to make a homeless application. Okay, it's something that's commonly known within the housing and the housing crisis as gatekeeping. Okay, this is where the councils make unnecessary demands, or to make it, I think, unnecessarily difficult for you to progress with the housing register unless you force them and you stand your ground. There's loads of really good web videos on YouTube for making a homeless application, this kind of thing. And I watched a lot of it. And then I made my own homeless application to Breckland Council, because when you don't have anything, I'm sorry, councils, wherever you stand is your local connection. You don't have to have family. You don't have to have a job. If you've got nothing, if you're standing in that county, you can make a homeless application.
Do you think it's just because of the burden of the volume of people needing help with housing that it's just...
There is massive burden. I mean, you know, with the cost of living crisis that's going on and everything else, people are finding themselves in difficulty that were perfectly happy in life before.
Yeah, just a year or so ago.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, mainly due, I think, to like food prices and fuel prices are just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So, like, how have you found that, like navigating the benefit system then as well? Because obviously, well, maybe you don't know, but Trust for Trust and a real pushing for an uplift in universal credit to, you know, to... It's called the Guarantee Our Essentials campaign. But from your point of view, like I don't know your ins and outs, your details of, you know, what you claim or on or have been in the past or whatever, but do you have views at least on the level of that and whether it's meets essentials nowadays compared to maybe 2 years ago where it perhaps...
Genuinely, when you first sign on, I'm on universal credit. I've been diagnosed with depression, anxiety. I'm waiting for diagnosis on ADHD. And I also have a problem with my bladder. So at the moment, we're just spending a little bit of time working on my head and getting my bladder and the waterworks. As you get older, you're going to have to face this, people. Honestly, I've had cameras where...
not these ones. They're too big.
Yeah. So when I first made my application, I was broke, no savings. It took a little bit of time for it to go through its process. And then once you've made an award, the initial sum of money that you receive is not enough for you to run a car, rent a room, and have food on the table, and also heat. It's not enough to live on. You know, you're less than £400 a week. £400 a month to pay for everything.
Yeah.
You know, how much is a pint of milk now?
Yeah. I don't know, Tony, you went and got some more milk earlier.
It's nearly £1. Or it could be over £1 in some shops, so, you know, some of the local remote stores. So it is really, really hard. I've now had my money increased due to my capabilities to work at the moment. So I'm long-term signed off. And that's given me enough money. That doubled my money, which gave me enough money to be able to get into a property, okay, and run a property with gas, with electric.
That's
with
not been long, has it? You're just saying...
Very.
I was fortunate enough with the council that I moved the 25th of April into a brand new flat with Orbit Housing in Attleborough. That was sort of a 6-month fight with the councils, and I really don't want to go into the details of it because I'm only going to encourage a load of people to give the council hell, but give the council hell.
That can be the thumbnail on the video.
But it's really, really hard, and people are so judgmental. When you're in a hole and you don't know where to turn, there's some really, really good organisations. The Hub, okay, Pine Close Sharon's, Nadine's Chapter 15. These are all places where you can just go and sit with normal people without being judged or anything else, and you can feel a little bit like you're part of society. I think that's the biggest thing with homelessness. It's because you're judged, because people point the finger. You know, you drop further and further away from wanting to talk to people or trusting people or anything else. Yeah,
and the opposite seemed to have happened to you. More and more people sort of connected with you and accepted you, and to the point where you're sort of like getting back on your feet now. But you were just saying literally before we started filming that your plans of what you'd want to do going forward, like, you know, look into your eyes in the future for getting back into work and stuff. So what's your thinking with that? What would you like to do?
Well, I was a diving instructor for 10 years.
You're going to be diving around the rivers in Thetford. You won't see the bottom.
I wouldn't mind actually diving in the rivers in Thetford just so I could explore some of the places I used to fish.
You might find some boots.
You might see me in there. I river dip a lot.
But yeah, I mean, you know, getting various grants that are available through Orbit to retrain, or if your tickets has expired, like I was a machine operator, a plant operator, they can help with funding for me to get my tickets back, which then will allow me to go back to work into something.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's making the considerations. Now, I've still got some work to do on myself. I've still got some more counselling to take. But I realise that the things that I've done in the past, and I'm not so proud of all of my life, they can't be changed. They are my history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can say sorry for the things that I've done wrong. Whether that apology is accepted or not is down to the receiver. The only thing I can change is going forward. If I take it slowly enough, I'll be all right. If I don't get flustered, I'm really hyper focused on I've got a fresh start. With the ADHD and the hyperfocus, I am just paying attention to all of that. I mean, I moved in 2 weeks ago. I've already been digging. This is where the plant beds are going to go, and all of that. You know, I'm 57 years old, and I'm like, well, I want to raise everything so when you're older, you'll still be able to get. Sorry, but it's true. It's true. So, yeah, looking into the future, I want to get back into work. Okay, I've always been a worker. I work hard. I'm reliable. You know, I turn up on time, and that's what I want to do again. But I had to get to such a low to actually realise that I do have some worth. You know.
I'll ask you that then. Like, linked with that is, in what ways do you think like our Foodbank clients can be empowered to advocate for change? Like you've done that yourself in your own life, but you're now doing it at Chapter 15 as well, and helping other people do that. We're moving into hopefully where we listen to people, you know, who've got a story, who've used the Foodbank, but we want to start trying to get people involved in changing our community who've been on your side of things. And so, like, are there any tips that you can give us about how we can draw that out of other Foodbank clients? Because you there's something about you, by the way, mate, that it just comes out of you. Like, other people aren't like that, you know, they bury it down deep, and you know, we want to get other people's stories, not just for the tape. I mean, to actually engage them in changing our community for the better. So, any tips you can give us, like, in how we might do that with people?
The first thing that people have got to understand is it's great getting all of these agencies surrounding you and the help, the counselling, the everything that comes around, but the only thing that changes or drives the change is yourself. So if you want to change, you can change. You can't, you know, with the support around you, they can help you, they can advise you, they can give you maybe different opinions for you to walk away and think about it. But the change comes from within. And I was always worried that I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And you don't have to see the light at the end of the tunnel. All you've got to worry about is your next footstep forward. Yeah, and I can influence that. So I can be a good Gavin or I can be a bad Gavin. I choose to be a good Gavin. We've all got our own stories and we've all got our own paths. And genuinely, the food that everyone donates, okay, there's some of you that put little special things in. Okay, thank you. Thank you. It goes a really long way, but also the tins of beans, the spaghetti, the cup of soup, the cereal, the milk, all of that. It's all needed, and it gets you through. So when you come in, or when I meet people, I don't want to judge people. Everyone's got their own story. I've judged myself for far, far too long, not realising that I don't have to worry about that, because that is in the past. It's done. I just need to worry about my next step. Not pushing too hard. And the same with people. How you can encourage people is just be friendly to people. If people are good people, you'll see it come out of them.
Well, Gavin, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story. And one thing that we kind of always like to do at the end of our podcast is ask if you think there's anything that we as a food bank should be talking about on the podcast. Is there anything that you think we could do to make a change and be talking about?
I don't know that it's actually, you guys offer a really, really fabulous, friendly service. All of the staff are lovely. You know, the food that you get gets you through. I don't think you can do much better than how you've got it. But my message would really be to the people that need to use the food bank. Get in contact with the local council, with Citizens Advice Bureau if you're struggling. No one will judge you. No one will judge you. Don't let your kids go hungry because everything's getting on top. Accept the help. You don't need to use it forever. But if you need some help, come and see the guys. You know, there's a wealth of support here. It's not just the food bank. You've also got the Citizen Advice Bureau here. You've also got a group from your home, the girls that help with your bills and bill management and stuff like that. So it's not just the food bank. There's a little bit more available for you here. And through the advice that you gave me, Steph, you've helped me get to where I am. I'm not quite out of the hole, but I can. It's very bright and sunny now, and I'm moving forward. So I thank you for that. Sure. I thank you.
That's a good place to stop, I think.
I think so, yeah. That's good. Thank you, mate, for coming. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next podcast.
Yeah, make sure you're there, because the next episode is in front of a live studio audience, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but we shall see you there in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks.